strength and weakness, assurance in Romans chapter 8. The plan of God is indeed a beautiful plan. His design is not to make the sinful human a superman or even a strong person when saved. The idea is to place another life in the human and teach the human how to live that new life. Of course, this is contrary to the makeup of the original person who thought that his life was the only life there was to live. Sadly, modern religion never caught on to this new life and its functions. They spent all of its time of teaching and preaching trying to fix up the original life. This has been difficult because God is not in the business of fixing up old lives, bringing them from a life of sin to a life of righteousness. God's plan is simple: do away with the old life and place a new life in the human. This, of course, will take away all of the strengths that the human accumulated in the period of the old life. In the new life, the strength is in another person, Christ, and the old life is dead at the cross. The first four verses in Romans chapter 8, verse 1 to 4 bear this out. Verse 1 says that a believer cannot have any condemnation because he is in Christ. Any idea such as this is mind boggling because in the previous life, every sin or wrongdoing was accompanied by self condemnation. But now in the new life, there is no sin or condemnation because Christ is the new life. Christ is not a sinner, and while the believer may sin and fall short of living his new life in Christ, it is because he has allowed his mind to go back to the old life and its erroneous way of thinking when actually it does not exist anymore. Verse 1 continued, it is the character of the new believer with the God nature working in him not to walk after the flesh, but after the Spirit. This means that the Spirit of Christ, now joined to the spirit of the human, will cause the believer to live a different way. There is a radical change in the human from doing things the old way to an entirely different lifestyle. The flesh has some built in ways of living that are contrary to the new life. Paul would say in Romans chapter 8, verse 10, that the body is dead and it is Christ in the believer that is alive. Verse 2, now in Christ, the believer learns to not trust himself, hoping to have strength to overcome the flesh. But a new law takes hold. It is the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. This law frees the believer from his own actions of trying to be strong within himself. He actually becomes weak within himself to allow the strength of Christ to rule. Therefore, walking in the Spirit does not call for a strength, but our weaknesses. Human strength is our flesh at work. The final gospel never calls for this. Verse 3 and 4 says that the failure of the law necessitated the final gospel, Christ in us. Now a believer lives in the Christ womb and draws all his strength from the womb. In Christ, the believer has his strength to live, but outside the womb, there is no help except self help, and it is doomed to fail. Paul encouraged us to walk according to the Spirit, for it is life and peace. To God be the glory. God bless you.